Now, this may seem a familiar story. North Korea test fires a new missile, accompanied by claims of its growing military prowess. Regional powers condemn the launch, some warning of consequences, others urging restraint. An emergency meeting of the UN Security Council is called. But what's different this time is that the missile has the longest range of any tested by North Korea. And this test came just days after the new South Korean president was sworn in. Well, let's talk to Daryl Kimball, the Executive Director of the Arms Control Association, who's in Washington for us. Daryl, thanks very much for joining us on the programme. And what do you make of this new launch? Are you alarmed?
Well, with every ballistic missile test that North Korea launches, and this is the 10th of 2017, its technicians acquire more information about how to reliably use these weapons to deliver a nuclear warhead. This missile test, as you said, was an intermediate range missile. It could have a range of about 4,500 kilometers. That's worrisome because that is longer. They would have to conduct more ballistic missile tests in order to perfect the ability to deliver a warhead. But this just underscores the need to engage in talks as the international community also puts pressure on North Korea. We need to engage in talks with North Korea in order to curb and then reverse their nuclear and missile progress.
And do you think that should also mean talks between Washington and Pyongyang?
Well, yes, I do. I mean, North Korea has made it clear that this nuclear and missile program is designed to deter what they see as the possibility of American and South Korean aggression. So they are not going to halt this program, let alone eliminate it, unless they have some assurances about a better security situation. And even then, it may be very difficult to persuade North Korea to denuclearize. That's a long-term project at this stage. The North has been saying they want negotiations on a peace treaty, which is something that many observers, including me, think would be a useful step forward if North Korea halts its ballistic missile testing and begins to verifiably dismantle parts of its nuclear capability. So finally, China, the United States, and South Korea have policies related to North Korea that are basically in alignment. So now is the time to put this strategy in motion, a strategy of pressure, but also pragmatic and tough engagement.
Do you think that's a strategy that can be followed by the Trump administration? Perhaps more so, given that they're not expected to. You know, President Trump, not seen as a soft touch, but if he says, I need to talk, maybe they do.
Well, he has at various points said that he would be willing to talk with North Korea's leaders. Secretary of State Tillerson, when he spoke to the Security Council a couple of weeks ago, made it clear that the United States would be willing to talk directly to North Korea under the right conditions. Now, what are those right conditions? I think it's clear, and President Moon Jae-in of South Korea seems to agree that if there are to be talks, North Korea has to exercise some greater restraint. They can't be firing off ballistic missiles as diplomats sit down and talk. So that is a necessary condition for talking about peace and a decrease of tensions that are now quite high on the Korean Peninsula.
I remember being in Washington when George W. Bush made his speech about the axis of evil, and that kind of rhetoric pops up quite a lot with Pyongyang, with North Korea. But do you think now is the time to be very, very careful about rhetoric like that, given what they're obviously capable of?
Well, I think it's important to be clear about there being sanctions consequences if the North Koreans continue to move forward. We have to be careful about talk that is designed to try to intimidate North Korea. This is a brutal, tough regime. I think it's very difficult to intimidate them, to change their behavior. We need to work closely with China and South Korea to implement the existing sanctions against the North to make it more difficult for them to pursue their nuclear and missile programs. And we need to find a way to get to the negotiating table in order to halt further ballistic missile tests and nuclear tests if they continue on this track, they're going to improve their capabilities, and the security situation in Northeast Asia is going to be much more dangerous.
All the options are very complicated, aren't they? Daryl Kimball, we appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.